We are getting breaking news in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Hit that like button right now. Share this everywhere. And subscribe to Dark Pulse with notifications on. Because in this video, we are answering the one question that has haunted this case from day one. Why Nancy? Why this house? Why this family? The FBI profilers have been studying this case for over a month. And today, we have answers. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. An 84-year-old great-grandmother. A woman who walked with difficulty. A woman who needed daily medication to stay alive. A woman who relied on a pacemaker just to keep her heart beating. And someone chose her. Not randomly. Not by accident. On purpose. The question investigators have been trying to answer since February 1st is simple. Why? Why would anyone target an 84-year-old woman living alone in a quiet Tucson neighborhood? What do they want? And what does their choice of victim tell us about who they are? The FBI profilers have answers. And those answers will change the way you see this entire case. This is Dark Pulse. Let me start with the one question that former FBI agent Jim Fitzgerald raised publicly on Megyn Kelly's show. He asked it simply, directly, without hesitation. Why was Mrs. Guthrie taken from her home around 2 in the morning? Think about that. 2 a.m. Not at noon. Not in the evening. Not while she was out running errands or visiting a doctor. 2 in the morning. The time when a neighborhood is completely dark. When every neighbor is asleep. When no one is watching. The time when someone who knows exactly when to strike goes in. Fitzgerald said the silence around the $1 million reward offer is itself revealing. $1 million. And still nothing. He said the suspect wanted Nancy Guthrie. Not her money. Not her possessions. Her. Now, here's where the profiler analysis gets complicated. And where two very different theories emerge. Mary Ellen O'Toole, former senior FBI profiler, former director of the Behavioral Analysis Unit, now a professor of forensic science at George Mason University. She laid this out with perfect precision. She said the central question investigators must keep open is this. Was Nancy targeted because she was Savannah Guthrie's mother? Or was she targeted because she was an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker who lived alone? Two completely different criminals. Two completely different motivations. Two completely different psychological profiles. O'Toole said both possibilities must be kept open. This is the fork in the road. And which path investigators take determines everything about how they build their case. Drop a comment right now. Which theory do you think is correct? Let me go down path 1. Nancy Guthrie was targeted because of Savannah. Former FBI agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder went on record with this theory. She said she doesn't believe for a second this was a burglary that went wrong. She pointed to the level of targeting, the specificity, and the precision with which this crime was executed. She said someone who was either upset about something Savannah Guthrie had done, or someone obsessed with her, that's who did this. And that's why they went after this family. Walder was careful to add something important. She said she had been hesitant to say this publicly because she never wants Savannah to think any of this is her fault. It isn't. But the evidence, Walder believes, points clearly in one direction. This was about Savannah. And the most devastating way to hurt Savannah Guthrie, a woman who was on national television, surrounded by security, impossible to reach directly, was to go after the person she loves most. Her mother. Former FBI Special Agent Greg Rogers reinforced this from a different angle. He publicly dismissed what some people have called the robbery gone wrong theory. He said the details of this case simply do not align with a crime of opportunity. And he broke down the distinction that every investigator understands, but most of the public doesn't think about. A robbery is about access and opportunity. A targeted kidnapping is about intent. It implies planning. It implies research. It implies forethought. And sometimes, Rogers said, it implies familiarity. Meaning whoever did this may have known things about Nancy Guthrie that you don't learn by driving past her house once. Her daily schedule. Her medication routine. Her medical vulnerabilities. Her pacemaker. When she went to bed. When the neighborhood was quiet. This person did homework. Now here is the detail that Mary Ellen O'Toole brought up. And I want you to pay very close attention. She was watching the doorbell camera footage from the night of February 1st. And she said the thing that stood out most to her was not what the suspect did. It was how he felt while doing it. She said the first thing she looks for at a crime scene is simple. Was the offender as nervous as the situation called for? And then she said something remarkable. She said with this suspect, you don't see the nervousness you would expect. Not in his movement. Not in his posture. Not in the way he approached the door and spent time on that porch. She said if you and I decided to commit this crime, we would be nervous wrecks. He wasn't, which means one of two things. Either he had done something like this before, or he had rehearsed this in his mind so many times, played it out so completely in his own head, that the physical reality of being there felt almost normal to him. The fantasy had already been lived. This was just the execution. Make sure you've hit that subscribe button. This analysis gets even deeper. Now let me go down path 2. Nancy was targeted not because of Savannah, but because of who Nancy herself was. 84 years old. Limited mobility. Lived alone. Pacemaker dependent. Daily medication required. Think about what that profile represents to a predator. It represents low resistance. It represents vulnerability. It represents as someone who cannot run, cannot fight back with any real force, and who lives in a quiet residential neighborhood without a partner to raise the alarm. Former FBI profiler Jim Clemente pointed to how the suspect may have acquired this information. He laid out the list of possibilities. Repair work, plumbing, electrical, roofing, pool cleaning, yard work, package deliveries, rideshare drivers, any routine service professional who had ever been to that home, even once, even briefly, even years ago, would have had the opportunity to assess Nancy Guthrie's vulnerability. And if that person had a fixation, if that person had already been watching from a distance, what they saw was a window. An 84-year-old woman alone. No dog. No partner. No alarm system visible. Living on a quiet street. And they decided to use it. Here is where the two theories, Savannah's enemy or Nancy's predator, actually converge. Because former FBI profiler Gregg McCrary, one of the founding architects of modern criminal profiling, described something that bridges both possibilities. He talked about a specific personality type, someone who had been casing this neighborhood, driving past, watching, observing, but also potentially someone celebrity-focused, someone who had developed a fixation on the Guthries specifically. McCrary said it could be both. Someone who noticed Nancy, who discovered through normal life she was Savannah's mother, and who built a fantasy that connected both women, one famous, one vulnerable, into a single terrifying plan. McCrary said if somebody fits the physical description, seems to have had some fixation on the Guthries before this, and has now disappeared from their normal routine, those things start stacking up. And that, he said, is the kind of lead that needs to be reported immediately. Now, I want to talk about the Zodiac comparison, because it matters. Mary Ellen O'Toole said something in an interview that most people glossed over. She said the offender is very likely preoccupied with the media coverage of this case. And then she mentioned the Zodiac killer by name. The Zodiac, who sent letters to newspapers, who taunted investigators publicly, who craved the media attention that his crimes generated. O'Toole said she keeps that in mind when looking at this case. The suspect chose to go to a news station with a ransom note. He went to TMZ. He made demands that he knew would be public. He didn't just want Nancy Guthrie. He wanted the world to watch what he had done. He wanted Savannah Guthrie on television begging. He wanted the story on every front page. He wanted to feel powerful, feel significant in a way his normal life had never allowed him to. And right now, he is almost certainly watching every news report, every development, every update, including this one. Let me talk about the backpack. The 25-liter Ozark Trail backpack. The one the suspect was wearing on the night Nancy disappeared. This detail matters more than most people realize. When the backpack was first identified, investigators noted it was exclusive to Walmart, only sold at Walmart. But then Sheriff Nanos said something that opened a new angle entirely. He said maybe it wasn't purchased at a Walmart store. He pointed out that a Walmart-exclusive product can still end up on eBay, on Facebook Marketplace, at a garage sale. Which means the purchase trail, the one investigators were hoping would trace directly back to the buyer, may lead somewhere murkier. Secondhand, anonymous, untraceable through a normal retail transaction. Whoever planned this crime thought about that. Or more chillingly, they didn't plan that far ahead and just got lucky. Either way, investigators are still tracing the backpack. And still looking. Share this video right now. Nancy's family needs every set of eyes on this case. Now, here's the forensic piece that the profilers believe could break this case open. The suspect didn't fully cover his mouth. Jim Clemente pointed to this immediately after the doorbell camera footage was released. The ski mask, the gloves, the tight clothing from the waist up, all of that deliberate forensic awareness. And then the mouth, partially exposed, which means breathing, saliva, buccal cellular material, DNA. And not just any DNA, the kind that can be run through genetic genealogy databases. This is the same method that caught the Golden State Killer after 40 years. Investigators upload a partial DNA profile to publicly available genealogy databases. They find distant relatives, aunts, cousins, second cousins, and work backward through family trees until they narrow in on a single individual. Jim Clemente believes the DNA left at the scene gives investigators a genuine path to identification, even without a Cody's database match. The glove found 2 miles from the scene. Unknown male DNA. No Cody's match. But genetic genealogy? That's a different database entirely. And that investigation may already be underway. There is also a tattoo. In the doorbell camera footage, during the moments when the suspect was on the porch and his clothing shifted, profiler Jim Clemente believes something visible may be a tattoo. Tattoos are databases, regional styles, prison-specific markings, gang affiliation symbols, custom designs that can be traced to specific artists in specific cities. Investigators are analyzing every pixel of that footage. And if that tattoo can be identified, its style, its location on the body, its design, it becomes another piece of the puzzle that narrows the field from hundreds of thousands of possible suspects to a handful. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now. Because in our next video, we are going to break down the full behavioral profile of this suspect in detail. The specific warning signs the people around him almost certainly saw. The pre-offense behavior Jim Clemente described. The post-offense behavior that someone somewhere has already noticed. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. We're posting again very soon. Back to the question we started with. Why Nancy? After weeks of analysis by some of the most experienced criminal minds in the country, here is what the evidence points to. She was not random. She was researched. She was observed over time. Her routines, her vulnerabilities, her isolation. Someone knew she lived alone. Someone knew about her pacemaker. Someone knew about her mobility limitations. And someone, whether motivated by hatred of her famous daughter or by predatory calculation or by something in between, made a decision. That Nancy Guthrie was the target. That her home was the location. That 2 a.m. on February 1st was the moment. And that whatever they wanted from this crime, whether it was money, power, revenge, or something darker, Nancy Guthrie was the way to get it. She is still out there. And somebody knows who did this. The reward total is now $1.2 million. If you have information, you call 1-800-CALL-FBI or contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900. Someone out there has seen something. Someone out there knows this man. His changed routine. His strange obsession. His disappearance from normal life after February 1st. $1.2 million is waiting. And Nancy's family is waiting. Bring her home. If this investigation was meaningful to you, hit that like button. Share this video everywhere. Subscribe to Dark Pulse for the next chapter in this case. We don't cover these cases for views. We cover them because Nancy Guthrie deserves every resource, every mind, every eye working to bring her home. The FBI profilers have given us the why. Now we need the who. This is Dark Pulse. See you in the next one.